Welcome back to the Sound for More channel. It's Leo speaking. Today I have the pleasure to go deeper into how NoInputMixer from Igor Vasiliev works. Before I continue, I would like to remind my viewers to subscribe as it helps with growing the channel. Thank you very much. In this tutorial, I'm not going to produce any sound. I'm going to go deeper into how the app works, which of course it is very useful as you progress in the series of tutorials to understand a little bit better what is happening and also to reference back to this tutorial if you need to. But for those that are not interested, of course, to go into the mechanics of how the app works, then by all means you can skip the next tutorial. Now, if you go inside the help here of NoInputMixer, you will find this fantastic diagram here on the help. And this is what I'm going to use to reference back to the UI and explain how it works. Okay, so first of all, let's close this. We are inside the AUM, as you can see, just instantiating NoInputMixer. Okay, let's open up that help again. So let's start here. You see this dotted line here? These groups a section which is for channel 1 to 7. As you can see here, you have external input left and right, but you also have input which is coming for pre-effect feedback, post-effect feedback, mix bus left and right, send 1 and 2 and return 1 and 2, which goes directly into the channel. Okay, and you can select between each other. So it is very much like going, for example, in this multi-view, clicking here on the channel, and you can select input left and right, pre and post, insert effect, mix left and right, send 1, 2, and say return 1, 2, or none. So that is your starting point. So we have seen all of these coming back here with the input signals, of course, and being selected between one or the other. Of course, inside the AUM, in order to have external input, you need to instantiate NoInputMixer as an insert effect. Okay, not just as a simple audio source, otherwise it will not have that input coming through. Next, what you can see is we are adding up to the input a noise, and you have a noise type selector here, an algorithmic noise generator, and then you have a noise level, okay, and then you have a gain. So if you go here and you click on the level, you have your gain there, you have the noise level there, and you have the type of noise as well, which you can select. So that is this part here. After you selected the input, you can select the noise and then adjust the gain as well. Next, you have tube type selector and also tube mode, linear and saturated. And again, you can see it down here, tube linear, tube saturator there as well. Okay, so that is pretty straightforward in terms of how it works. Then And of course, here you can also have your preamp and also your normal amp op selector, which you can also find in the diagram here. You can see op amp type selector. Okay. Then you have an overload protection circuit, okay, with a threshold, and you also have a brick wall limiter here. Okay, and again, this is your overload, and this is your limiter. Okay, and you have a mix on and off, and then you have a mute. And again, if you go back to the diagram, you have the mute here. You can mix it on and off here. Okay, the next what you have is filter, shelf and cutoff, and peak EQ, notch and band pass. Again, so if you click into EQ here, you have shelf, high and low, peak, which you can choose between notch and pass. And of course, you can still adjust the gain as well. Okay, so in this way, we have practically covered this part here, which is the same for channel 1 to 7. Now you can send to a signal to send 1 level, to send 2 level, only can propagate it down here, where you have your main mix on and off here, and then you can adjust the pan left and right. Okay, so if I click back here, you have your send 1 and send 2 as well, and you have your pan here as well. Okay, and of course we have seen also the mix on and off there. Okay, so that is how this part works, and you can see here that send 1 goes to this line here. From there it goes here, which is the send 1 feedback group, which you can have it back to itself, and that is how you can have that feedback loop that it continues to generate sounds, taking the output and process it back into the input. Okay, next here we have another part, which is the effect slot 1 to 7, because number 8 is dedicated to the main output as an insert effect, of course. So here what you have is your input, which can be from a previous effect. It can be from the corresponding insert effects from the corresponding channel. And it can also be from send 1 and send 2. Then you have the type of effect, okay, with your presence and effect parameter, and then your output selector, which can be returned 1 and 2. Okay, so if you click here on Mixer, so here you have input, which can be none, the corresponding insert effects, send 1 and 2 on, of course. But if you go to the next one as an input, you can also have the previous effect as well. And then, of course, as an output, you have return 1 and 2, and then here you have a presence. Okay, and then here you can select the type of effect and then adjust the corresponding parameters. So in this way, we have covered exactly this section here, with also the capability to send to return bus 1 and 2, but also to take input from send 1 and send 2. Next, we can take return 1 and return 2 to go to this main line here, okay, which is the corresponding here output, okay, and you have your return 1 and you have your return 2. Okay, then here you have EQ filter, you have shelf and cutoff, of course. And again, if you go to the help here, you have peak EQ, right? And then you have a filter, shelf and cutoff, and you have high frequency pass and low frequency pass, which is what you have in here for the cutoff, okay? So that is how that part works. Next, we continue on this journey here. You can have reverb type and reverb presence, main level, mute, and then it goes to the output. And this is where you have the reverb type, the level, and the main output as well. Okay, and this part here, you can actually take input from previous effect slot, which is the effect slot number 8. You can also send bus 1 and 2 into this as an input selector. You select the type of effect with presence, and then you can send it out to the output as return bus 1 and 2. And that corresponds to the effect 8 here, for which you have presence and mute in there. And then, of course, if you go to multi and mixer, you will find, to the effect, you find effect 8, you can choose the effect type and the settings. Then you can decide the input, which can be the corresponding insert effects from the main output, then send 1, send 2, and then of course you can send it out to return 1 and return 2, and you have presence down there as well. So I hope these helped you out on understanding how the app works, and as always, see you next time. Bye.